I never planned my mornings around anyone. Just the usual routine. Coffee at the corner shop, earbuds in, half reading the same news feed I'd scrolled through the night before. Nothing special. But then she started showing up. At first, she was just another customer in line. Mid-40s maybe. Hair pulled back in that way that looks both careless and deliberate. She always ordered the same thing. Black coffee, no sugar. I noticed because I ordered the same. One morning, the barista mixed up our cups. She smiled when I handed hers back. Guess we're interchangeable now. I laughed, too quickly, and nearly dropped my lid. I remember folding the napkin in my hand, over and over, like it had some answer written in the creases. After that, I kept noticing her. Noticing in a way that felt dangerous if I thought too hard about it. How she always leaned against the counter while waiting, tapping her thumb against the cardboard sleeve. How her eyes skimmed the headlines of the paper left behind, but never for long. How, when she caught me looking once, she didn't look away right away. We started talking. Nothing big. Weather. The coffee shop's terrible playlist. Once, she teased me for always checking my phone before I even sat down. I'm waiting for a call that never comes, I said without meaning to. It slipped out. She tilted her head. Aren't we all? That stuck with me longer than it should have. Most days, I'd sit at my corner table, pretending to read while stealing glances. She didn't always stay. Sometimes she took her coffee to go, rushing toward the apartment building across the street. It took me weeks to realize she lived one floor above mine. The ceiling creaks I'd heard late at night? That was her. I thought about saying something when I saw her in the stairwell. But up close, without the buffer of coffee steam and background chatter, words jammed in my throat. She said, "Hey," in that low, steady way, and I nodded like a nervous kid. At night, I'd catch myself drafting messages I'd never send. Nothing bold. Just things like, "Do you ever hear the pipes clanging too?" Or, "That playlist was worse than usual today." I'd type them out, read them back, and delete before the cursor even blinked twice. It wasn't that I wanted something dramatic. It was the opposite. I wanted the smallness of it. To keep orbiting near her. Last week, something shifted. The shop was nearly empty, rain ticking against the windows. She came in later than usual, damp hair escaping her hood. She slid her cup beside mine on the counter while waiting. "You're always here," she said. I shrugged. "Habit." She studied me in a way that felt heavier than the word. Habit's not the worst thing. Then her drink came up, and she was gone before I could think of anything else to say. I told myself not to read into it, not to make a story out of an ordinary line. But that night, as I sat at my desk staring at the ceiling, I heard footsteps above me, pacing slow, then pausing. Like she was restless, too. And just when I'd convinced myself I was imagining everything, my phone lit up with a number I didn't know. One new message. Her name. Just 4 words. "Are you awake still?" I sat there, thumb hovering, feeling the walls of my room shrink and expand at once. I thought I knew her, but she was about to show me a whole new side. Her message sat on my screen for longer than I'd admit. "Are you awake still?" I typed yeah, erased it, typed it again, and finally sent. The 3 dots blinked, disappeared, came back. Then another message. "Can you come upstairs a sec?" My heart was already answering before my legs moved. Her door opened before I knocked. She stood barefoot, wrapped in a worn sweater that hung past her hands. No makeup, hair pulled loose. It was the first time I'd seen her like this. Not the composed neighbor with her coffee, but someone softer, less guarded. "Sorry," she said quickly, stepping aside. "The sink's, well, it's making that noise again. Thought maybe you'd know something about pipes." I wasn't exactly handy, but I nodded anyway, grateful for the excuse. The kitchen light was dim. A single mug sat on the counter, half-drunk, tea cooling in it. I crouched under the sink, rattling the wrench she handed me, pretending I knew what I was doing just to fill the silence. "You didn't have to come," she said, leaning against the counter. "It's late." I wasn't sleeping. Neither was I. She gave a small smile, more to herself than to me. Seems I never do anymore. I glanced up before I could stop myself. Something in her face looked heavier than the words. You ever notice, she went on, how the night makes everything louder? Pipes, clocks, thoughts you don't want. I tightened the pipe, uselessly. Yeah, I know that one. For a moment, it felt like we weren't talking about plumbing at all. She filled the silence with movement, making tea in another mug. I used to drink wine at this hour, she said lightly, but it started feeling like I was talking to the bottle instead of anyone real. Tea's quieter. I took the mug when she offered it, the warmth grounding my hands. She didn't say why she'd stopped drinking, and I didn't ask. But I imagined the outlines: divorce, late nights, maybe someone who didn't stay. The age between us stretched in the space, unspoken but present. She was mid-40s, with lines around her eyes that came from both laughter and sleeplessness. I was barely 23, still learning how to hold my own silence without filling it. Part of me knew this was dangerous, the way my thoughts edged toward wanting something I couldn't name. We sat at her small table, steam rising between us. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Just the sound of spoons clinking, rain tapping at the window. Finally, she set her cup down and looked at me. Really looked. You remind me of someone I knew once. When I was your age. I swallowed. Good reminder, or bad? She smiled faintly, eyes lowering. Both. Her hand brushed mine when she reached for the sugar. A small, ordinary thing. But it held a weight I couldn't name. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. The next morning, everything felt sharper. The walk to the coffee shop, the scrape of chairs on tile, the way my phone seemed heavier in my pocket. I caught myself replaying the sound of her voice from last night, softer than I'd ever heard it. She came in later than usual, damp hair again, grocery bag tucked under her arm. I lifted a hand, but she only gave the smallest nod, eyes sliding past me. Not cold, just distant, like she was resetting the space between us. I sat there, pretending to read, heat crawling under my collar. Did I imagine the way her hand lingered on mine? Did I take something too far just by noticing? When she finally crossed the room, she set the bag on my table. You forgot this. Inside was the wrench I'd left under her sink. She tapped the handle with her finger. Figured you might need it more than I do. I tried to smile. Guess I'm not much of a plumber. No, she said, almost laughing. Then quieter. But you tried. That silence again. The kind that isn't empty, just holding too much. Before I could say anything else, the barista called out my name. She straightened, stepping back, and I swear I saw her hand twitch, like she wanted to touch the bag again, to stay tethered to the moment. But she didn't. She just said, "See you," and walked out into the daylight. That afternoon, a friend from my building knocked on my door. Jake. Loud, always grinning. He leaned against the frame, pointing upstairs. You ever notice your neighbor? My throat tightened. What about her? She's, you know. He whistled under his breath. Way out of your league. But damn. I forced a laugh, tried to brush it off, but something inside me bristled. The way he said it, like she was just a headline, not a person who stayed up at night with tea instead of wine. After he left, I sat there, restless. Every creak from upstairs felt like a call. Later, in the stairwell, it happened. I was carrying laundry. She was locking her door. We nearly collided. The basket dug into my hip as I muttered, "Sorry." She smiled quickly, but her eyes lingered. Doing the Sunday wash. Yeah. Procrastinated too long. We both stood there, neither moving. The hallway light flickered once, buzzing. Her hand brushed the railing, then tightened around her keys. You should go, she said finally, but her voice caught halfway. I nodded, but my feet didn't move. Right. For a second, just a second, the space between us narrowed. Close enough to notice the faint citrus of her shampoo. Close enough to see the small line at the corner of her mouth, the one that deepened when she almost smiled. Her gaze flicked down, then back up, steady but fragile, like a door half open. If I'd leaned an inch closer, maybe, but she stepped back first. Good night, she said, softer than I'd ever heard her. And the moment closed before it could break open. It happened on a Tuesday evening. The air had that sharp bite of early spring, the kind that makes you pull your jacket tighter even when you swore it was warm enough. I was walking back from the corner store, plastic bag rustling against my leg, when I saw her sitting on the bench outside our building. No coffee between us this time. No half-lit stairwell. Just her, staring at the streetlights like they had answers. "You're out late," I said. My voice sounded too loud against the quiet street. She looked over, half-smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Couldn't stay inside tonight. Felt restless." I sat down, bag at my feet. A long pause stretched, filled only by the hum of passing cars. She broke it. "Your friend was talking to me the other day. Jake, is it?" My stomach tightened. "What did he say?" Her gaze didn't leave the street. "Just noticed me. In that way men do." I pretended not to hear. She let out a breath that sounded tired. But I hate that I even noticed he noticed. I didn't know what to do with my hands. They stayed in my lap, fingers knotted together. "You're not him," she added, softer. I turned toward her, words rushing before I could stop them. "Sometimes I feel like I shouldn't even sit here with you. Like people will think," she cut in. "They will. That's the problem." The silence that followed wasn't angry, just heavy, like we were both holding something fragile between us, and neither wanted to drop it. Finally, she leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment. "When I was your age, I thought I knew exactly how the years ahead would look. Marriage, kids, some version of steady. And then one day you look up and realize you're 45, and the only steady thing left is the sound of pipes knocking at midnight." Her voice cracked the tiniest bit, and it made me want to reach for her. But I stayed still. "I don't want to be someone's mistake," she said. "Not yours." It felt like my ribs pressed inward. "You wouldn't be." She opened her eyes then, turning to me, really turning. The streetlight caught the faint lines across her face, and for the first time, I thought they were beautiful. "You can't know that," she whispered. I almost told her everything in that moment. The way her absence filled rooms, how my mornings bent around whether she'd show up. Instead, the words stalled, tangled with the sound of my heartbeat in my ears. Her hand shifted on the bench between us, close enough that I could feel the warmth of it. Not touching, but there, waiting. I don't know how long we sat like that, caught between motion and stillness. And then she asked, almost too quietly to hear, "What happens if we don't stop this now?" The next morning, she wasn't at the coffee shop. I told myself it was nothing. People miss days, routines bend. But then it happened again, and again. By the third day, the seat she always leaned against, the one near the window, felt like a ghost occupying the space. I kept checking the door, the sound of it opening pulling my head up every time. Nothing. Just strangers, voices blending, a playlist humming on repeat. That night, I heard the ceiling above me creak, then silence. No pacing, no kettle whistle, just stillness. By the fourth day, I couldn't take it. I went upstairs, stood outside her door with my hand half raised to knock. But before I could, voices drifted from inside. A man's. Low, familiar in that sharp way that makes your stomach twist. I froze. The laugh that followed wasn't hers. It was thinner, strained, but it was hers trying to sound lighter than she felt. I walked back down the stairs, each step slower than the last. 2 days later, she appeared again. Not in the shop, not on the bench, just in the stairwell, carrying groceries. She saw me first, paused, then shifted the bags higher in her arms. "Hey." I swallowed. "Hey." We stood there, too many unsaid things crowding the air. She looked tired, her hair pulled back quickly, no trace of the calm slowness she used to carry. "Finally," she said, "my daughter's home for a bit. From college. Staying a week." A daughter. I'd never pictured her as someone's mother, though of course she was old enough to be. The fact lodged in my throat like a stone. "That's good," I managed. She nodded, eyes flicking away. "It is. Just changes the rhythm of things." The way she said it told me the man's voice I heard wasn't random. Maybe her ex. Maybe not. But someone who had roots I couldn't compete with. I wanted to ask. To say something that mattered. Instead, All I could manage was, "If you need help with the groceries, I've got it." She cut in, not unkindly, but final. Her door shut gently, the click of the lock softer than it felt. That night, I sat with my phone, typing out a message. "I miss our talks." Delete. "Do you ever think about that bench?" Delete. "Are you okay?" Delete. The screen glowed back at me, blank. My reflection staring through it. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. The cursor blinked, waiting, but the message never left my drafts. And her seat by the window stayed empty. It was late when it happened. Not midnight, but close. The building was quiet, hallways dim. I'd just come back from the laundromat, basket balanced on my hip, when her door opened. She stepped out, sweater pulled around her, hair unbrushed. For a moment we both froze, like two people caught where they shouldn't be. "You're still up," I said. "So are you." Her voice was soft, like she wasn't sure if she wanted me to hear. I shifted the basket, set it down at my feet. The silence stretched, full of all the things we hadn't said the last week. Finally, she spoke. I didn't mean to disappear. "You don't owe me." "Yes," she cut in, but quietly. "I do. At least an explanation." Her eyes didn't leave mine, and suddenly it felt like the whole building tilted around us. "My daughter," she said, words careful. "When she's here, I remember what I'm supposed to be. A mother. An adult who knows better." She swallowed. "And then there's you. And I feel, I don't know, younger, lighter. And that scares me." I wanted to reach for her, but my hand stayed pressed to the laundry basket. "You think I don't feel it too?" Her smile was tired, but real. "You're 23. You're supposed to feel everything. I can't decide if that makes this better or worse." The air between us tightened. My chest ached with words I'd been carrying. I let some of them out. "I don't care how it looks. I like being around you. More than I should, maybe. But it feels like the first time someone," I stopped, searching, "actually sees me." Her face shifted, like something cracked open inside her. For a long time, she didn't answer, just leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. Then she whispered, "You see too much." We stood there, the hum of the hallway light buzzing above. I thought of all the ways this could end. Her walking back inside, me walking away, both of us pretending it never happened. Instead, she stepped closer, just enough that the sleeve of her sweater brushed my arm. Her hand hesitated at her side, then lifted, fingertips grazing my wrist. Not holding, not pulling, just there. It was the smallest touch, but it carried everything. The risk, the guilt, the longing neither of us could name out loud. "I don't know where this goes," she said. Her eyes searched mine, steady and unsure all at once. "Neither do I." The words hung between us. Heavy, true. And then she gave the smallest nod, almost invisible. A signal, or maybe just a surrender. Weeks passed. Maybe months. I stopped counting exactly. Life didn't change dramatically. Pipes still groaned at midnight. The corner shop still played the same lo-fi playlist. But something shifted quietly, so gradually I almost didn't notice. We fell into a rhythm. Not easy, not rehearsed. Coffee at 8:47 a.m., her black, mine with a splash of milk. Shared silence on the bench outside, sometimes reading, sometimes just watching the street lights flicker on. She never rushed me. I never pressed. The first time we stayed long enough to finish a whole pot of tea in her kitchen, she didn't flinch at my fumbling hands or the spilled drips on the counter. I watched her fold her napkin slowly, deliberately, like she was marking time with me. "I don't know why this feels right," I said one morning, the words slipping before I could stop them. She smiled, not in a teasing way, but with the weight of someone who's been holding back too long. "Because it's not perfect. It's ours." Her daughter visited occasionally. We didn't pretend to erase it, didn't gloss over it. Sometimes we laughed at the small chaos, cereal spilled, music blaring too loud, socks in the hallway. Sometimes we didn't speak at all, letting life fill the gaps with ordinary moments. I stopped leaving unsent texts. Instead, I wrote notes she could find. On the counter, tucked into her book, sometimes a single line. Tea's ready, like an inside language only we shared. She stopped apologizing for the way she liked her world organized. I stopped questioning what I couldn't change. One rainy afternoon, the bench outside was wet, and she handed me her sweater before I even asked. Her hand brushed mine, lingered a second too long, then she looked away. I didn't flinch. That pause between us had become familiar, comforting. It wasn't about grand gestures, not declarations shouted across rooftops. It was quiet, steady, a hand resting on mine while the coffee cooled. A glance that said, "I notice you. I still see you." We didn't rush, didn't force meaning. We just existed there, side by side in the smallness of our routines, the creak of pipes, the flicker of morning lights. And one evening, when the sun hit the kitchen just right, she smiled at me while folding laundry, and I realized I'd stopped counting days altogether. I'd stopped measuring the distance between us. The bench outside waits, always, but we rarely need it now. We have our small corners, our tea, our black coffee, our quiet rhythms. And sometimes, when the world feels too loud, we just sit together. I don't think anyone else would understand the weight in the way she folds a napkin or the pause before she hands me my mug. But we do, and that's enough. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next? Okay, she breathed. That was all. No kiss, no promises. Just her hand on my wrist, my breath held still, and the quiet echo of a door half open.